10 is an important number for this video. 10 because only 10 of you will have the opportunity to own this Revelot Admiral GMT for just under $300. Yes, you heard me right. In fact, to be precise, it's $289, and that's a massive discount compared to its already affordable $400 retail. Now, if you follow the link below, you'll be able to enter this code and get that very nifty discount, but only for the 10 of you. Okay. So, if that's not enough to entice you to buy this watch, well, it has other features, of course. It has the unique dial concept and very capable uh, luminescence under low light conditions. So find out how it stacks up with other watches and see if the Revelot Admiral GMT has something that tickles your fancy. The three things that a microbrand lives and dies from is affordability, unique design, and high specifications. All three of those are very much present in Revelot, and the Admiral GMT is a prime example of such a model that really puts it in the radar of many watch enthusiasts. This GMT variant comes in at 43.5mm and a thickness of 13.5. It reads impressive with those dimensions, but I assure you it's a more comfortable wear with the help of that 49mm lug distance. What also helps is a unique faceted cushion shape that somehow negates its visual bulk. On my 6¼ inch wrist, it's surprisingly wearable even though I couldn't escape that very tall case height. The clasp is equally massive, rounding out this bulky and tank-like personality. It has all the bells and whistles with it, including that micro-adjust mechanism on the clasp and that, well, somewhat useful quick-release spring bars. This is how this quick-release spring bar is held into this bracelet. As you can see in this shot, it took me a while to align the spring bars back into place and reinstall this strap. This is likely due to the angle I'm filming, but mostly because of that spring bar that's held only by a channel. This makes it freely slide off the bracelet rather easily. I have misplaced this spring bar numerous times, making it my biggest complaint for this watch rather than a selling point that I usually endorse. It also helps to just lay this watch on the table and install it as perpendicular to the case as possible. It's likely the easiest way to install this spring bar back into place. But for this video presentation and your amusement of my suffering, I elected to just push on through with this shot. And it's still going. Now you're suffering with me in this ordeal. Here's another 15 seconds of your life that you'll never get back. I assure you this is the last shot, and I think this is when I actually finally make it latch on to those lug holes. The rest of the watch works pretty well. The bezel action is nice and snappy, and turning it is a breeze with those large knurled surfaces. Operation of the crown is equally pleasing with that matching diamond knurling draped all over the crown. It gives me this certain nostalgic feeling from those old hi-fi audio players of the 80s. This collar's GMT from Seiko is another great feature of the watch, though I feel it's a little bit overpowered by all of the other design elements of this model. The watch is called the Admiral after all, to reference back to its military leanings, and I guess that also gives it a reason to add the GMT function. It now has a seafaring story behind it, but for me, I'm just happy that it's not just another three-hander at this point. It's got that customary threaded design to lock down the crown back into place. This gives it a 200-meter water resistance, and it's very appropriate for this dive watch. The Admiral also shines in the strap department, as you can see it paired with this NATO strap. The 22mm NATO that I have here also has an orange accent to match this colorful piece. It further gives a Planet Ocean vibe with this combo, something that is a big compliment for this watch and a slightly asinine comparison. Another thing to note is how this is an equally low-budget side grade to the Admiral, as you can buy one of these NATOs in Amazon at the cost of half a Happy Meal. Of course, you get what you pay for in the quality department, but it's another shoe for the Admiral to wear nonetheless. I'm sure bigger wrists can pull this off better, but I'm fine with wearing my watches preposterously big like this. It's a great companion on the beach and seaport decks, as you may imagine. Now, if you want a more casual affair, it's also easy to slip on a good thin leather strap. This one I borrowed from my Zelos swordfish, gives off a vintage spirit, though the brown hue clashes a bit with the colorful case. It's a good try, but I think I prefer the metal bracelet. The Admiral does a lot of work to make it stand out against the crowd of divers in the saturated microbrand market. It's got its own spin on the design, and I must admit that once you see a Revelot Admiral, you know it's an Admiral that you're looking at. So far, I'm yet to see anything similar to this dial, not just for that swirling pattern, but largely because of that loomed hour marker. Marker, not markers. We'll get back to that. The shape and impression bears a little resemblance though against another more popular brand, Zelos. Beside this titanium swordfish, we can see a competing approach on delivering unusual patterns. But the case, oddly enough, looks smaller against this 42mm swordfish. This is likely because of the thinner lugs and bigger dial circumference of this Zelos. This is an example of visual impression shrinking a larger watch, spec-wise. Now let's compare this to another legendary diver that is the standard that all divers are being measured against, the Submariner. If it wasn't obvious earlier, it should be now, as this elegantly finished and compactly designed Submariner just outranks the Admiral. In this comparison, you can clearly see which sports recreation category the Admiral is trying to place itself on. And with this kind of comparison, despite being called the Admiral, it feels more at home on the deck and under the sea floor than the Submariner. That's my crude illustration of what the Admiral is to me, but it's now time to hear about you and your musings on this watch. Tom Kowalczyk says, it's a chunky boy, and yes, I sorta agree. Ben Ferris remarks that he's unsure about having that straight end-link bracelet, but he's open to this if it meant keeping the cost down and reusable for other models. Benjamin Viss says, he's excited by the swirling pattern on the dial and that this has a lot of interesting ideas in the design. However, he feels unsure if it all works as a whole. I echo the same sentiments, as I feel that some of the elements do feel out of place. Now let me explain. The bezel design and the case facets all display these angular forms and diamond shapes that really blends well with each other. The orange part of the bezel, for example, starts off with this triangle mark that works well with the diamond knurlings from the side. These knurlings then continues to the crown, and the triangles even flow downward towards the lug shape. Pretty cool. This, from a designer's standpoint, is a fantastic theme that's seamlessly woven into the functions of the watch. But then that angularity is somewhat replaced by soft triangles for the bracelet links that really helps with the articulation of the band. Now you draw away from the visuals for the sake of functionality here. As you go through the rest of the functions, this really seems to be a strap that's designed for a totally different watch that is then used for the Admiral. Yes, it is infinitely more expensive to design the bracelet in harmony with the case, so I can fully understand if Revelot would just use a currently available strap for the Admiral. I'm really as salty about it like a barnacle on a life raft, but it's hard to ignore once you notice it. The case back is rather modest with a swirl pattern to reference also that dial. Now going back to the dial, this is where we are going to highlight some of the key features. Despite being completely against the angular nature of the watch, this swirl pattern impresses with its definition and light play. It's truly worth the price of admission, worthy of ignoring the immense contrast against the rest of the watch. The execution of this surface is very clean. Even when under multiple times of magnification, it holds up in the visual department. Now compound that with this immensely applied lume and you've got a flow of green light cascading down the center of this swirling dial. Here's something I learned in dial design. If you intend to add massive amounts of lume, you'll need thick walls to prevent them from spilling over. This is why large looms are usually poured in applied markers. In the Admiral's case, the whole dial is surrounded by this lume, utilizing equally thick walls to corral them. The shape that Revelot used, though, didn't really work for me. I find that the small triangles felt mediocre at best and may have worked better if it was completely removed. Another alternative would have been to simply add some thin lines in the place of these half-measure triangles. Those criticisms aside though, it still packs quite a punch, so much so that it could rival and even outperform a Zelos swordfish. Yes, and that is a feat that very few microbrands could actually brag about. And arguably the most important feature of the Revelot Admiral GMT is the very hard-to-beat price. This watch packs quite a significant value and variations that it's easy to get lost amongst the pages of Revelot's shop. It's a true spec buster that won't bust your wallet and a feature packed design that's just slightly incoherent. And that is the Revelot Admiral GMT. It's got that similar Zelos flair with all of those faceted case designs and angles similar to the hammerhead and even swordfish in some degree. But it's also got that very nice affordability for your budget while offering a lot of the similar specs and similar features from other watches, especially the lume. However, there are some design flaws there, not something that I can really pass up, but something that I could easily redesign if I may add. Like for example, that loom, very nice loom, if I may also mention. But that loom could have been broken up there. Those uh, quarter markers or those hour markers could have been a little bit more refined to my liking, at the sacrifice, of course, of having more surface area for the loom, which is I think what they're going for, and it's very easy to for this design to have its own footing in time. So let's see about that. But that dial, also that swirling effect, is very nice. Although I must admit it may not fit this design after all. If you ask me, I could go with less loom or maybe looms that are applied differently so we can get that stainless steel effect with that very shiny and similar dial that will make it a lot more unique. I like the orange and blue um, colors here on the bezel, which is very neat. Gives me the ocean, planet ocean vibes there. And I think the very best part of this watch is the price, just $400, and with our discount you're getting it at under $300. I mean that's very hard to beat for a well spec watch. Has 200 meters of water resistance and a very nice build quality overall. So take advantage of that, the 10 of you. Make sure you're one of them, and if not, if still, it's just $400. You'll be able to own one of these, have fun with it, and if you're uh, done with it, or if you're tired with it, you can give it off to a friend who could appreciate it. But nevertheless, you will appreciate this, the Revelot GMT Admiral GMT, and it's a well built watch with a ton of specs. Now, if that's not enough to entice you, well, just look at the watch. It looks very unique and very striking, especially under low lighting conditions. Now, let me find out. Um, I already found out. No, I'll let you find out how how badly this video has gone.